Hello everybody, week 25, by gum. Next week we are halfway through, by gum, that's proper Yorkshire saying. Yeah. Right, so week 25. Going to do something slightly different this week. I am a little bit excited about this one. I don't know if it's going to work. In my head it should. Not 100% sure. So we're going to do weaving, but not fabric weaving. We're going to do thread weaving. So what you're going to need this week are 2 tags. In my head this is because we need quite a sturdy tag. Now if your tags are quite thick anyway, that's fine, but if they're not, just grab a Pritt stick or some sort of paper glue. Obviously there are other glue sticks that you could buy. Not doing product placement on here. So just pop some glue on, line your tags up, stick them together. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to create our weaving actually straight onto the tag. So you need to measure your tag. Mine are 5 centimeters in width. So what I'm going to do is every half centimetre I'm just going to put a dot with a pencil. It's up to you how far you spread this out, but you do need to measure it. I feel like I'm doing a very good teacher lesson here. A little bit of numeracy. Okay, so I've got some tiny dots there on the card, and then I've got a bookmaking owl, which is a really sharp edge. I've got a piece of foam and I'm just going to place that on the top, and then with this just get the point just in your dot, and then just gently just press down and punch a hole. You might want to put something underneath your polystyrene in case, or your foam or whatever it is that you're using, in case you end up going right the way through onto your table. If you don't have an owl, you can just use a sharp needle. It's just going to make stuff a little bit easier. So punch the holes through. Obviously because I've got 2 bits of card, it's making it a little bit stiffer. You can just see and get my little holes. Okay, so there we've got our holes. Then I'm just going to get a strong thread that this is a cotton thread that it doesn't have a give in it, so you could use bookmarking twine, whatever it is, as long as it just needs to be strong. So I'm just going to come up through one of the holes, pull that through, just leave a little bit just on there so we can tie that off when we get round to the bottom end, then go up to the top, round the back and back down to the bottom. Okay, flip it over, and this little loose end here, just tie that in a little knot. There we go. Nice and tight. Just trim it off just a little bit so it's not dangling, but I'll trim it right off at the very, very end. And then we're just going to carry on up and down. Okay. Right, then you're going to need to collect together a selection of threads. I would suggest that you choose your favourite colour. So my favourite colour, even though I still love my yellow and mustards, the one colour that I always tend to go back because I just love nature and I love greens. Now you can play around with this like normal, so you might choose one colour and do tones of colour. You might want to do the seasons, so you might start with winter, spring, summer, autumn. It's going to be totally up to you as usual. Okay, when you're doing this, you don't want to pull it tight so that it ends up bending your tag. You just want to make sure it keeps that tag nice and flat, so you've not got it too tight, because when we start weaving it's going to lift it slightly. It may bend a little bit, that'll depend on the thickness of the threads that you end up weaving. So when you've done that all the way around, all you need to do then is just come round this last one, go around once, pop your needle through the loop, go around again, just so you tie it off at the back. Okay, so we're ready for our weaving. Now the trick with weaving is not to get this too tight that it ends up pulling all these in. There's different ways that you can do it. You might want to weave and go backwards and forwards. You might just want to weave and go along. We can do dangly bits that are going to stand off our little weaving to build up some textures. So just pull off a little length to start you off. So I've got some threads that are variegated, so they'll change colour. I have got some threads that are a little bit fluffy. I've got some wool, I've got some linen thread, I've got a big green bobbin there, I've got my pearly threads. So you can use just about anything with this. And it's up to you whether you decide you want to be super neat, or I tend to be a little bit scraggy when I'm doing my weaving. I could actually use a longer needle. I hadn't thought about that. Oh, there we go. That's going to make my life a little bit easier. This is a milliner's needle that I had for my bullion stitching. Only disadvantage with them is sometimes the eyes are a little bit small. Go on, in you go. You know you want to go in. Might end up grabbing a different one. What else have I got? Oh, that's a bit. Oh, look at that. That's a right chunky needle. There we go. That's better. And basically, with your weaving, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, pull it through. And we're going to start at the bottom. So my very first one, I'm going to leave a dangly bit off the end, because I'm probably going to have some of these that are just loose at the end. So if you've gone under, sorry, under here, then you're going over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, and pull it through. Now this is where you mustn't pull it too tight, and then just scrunch it down, because ideally when we've done, we don't want to see those threads. So I'm going to pull that gently just so I get that neat at that side, but again not too tight. Okay, so going back, so go under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over. There we go. Get off. There we go. Pull that again. Right. Scrunch it down. Okay. Right, I quite like that. So I'm going to leave that on that needle there, and I'm going to grab a different one. Might go for a bit of a fluffy one. Now these ones, they're a bit hard to thread onto a needle unless you've got something with a huge eye. Right, I think these two are probably the same. Let's see if we can get it through there. Don't know if my little needle threader will help. Sometimes these work and then sometimes they don't. But that is life, one supposes. We're going to... oh, there we go. Look at that. So exciting. Okay. Right, so I finished at that side, so I'm going to start at that side. So it went under, so I'm going over, under, over, under, over, under, over. Now you can end up doing doubles. Let's keep that there. Right, so what I'm going to do now is at this end, I'm going to tie those two just really gently in a little knot. There we go. Okay, so pull that little knot, just trim it off with scissors and cut that one off. I can cut that one off, and then the knot will disappear into it, and it actually doesn't matter if it comes to the front, because you just end up then with like a little bit of texture. Under, over, under, under. Oops. Now I'm going full all the way across, but you don't have to. You can really start playing around with just going part the way across and having another needle ready with another thread. So hopefully you can see that I'm just beginning to build up this lovely texture. So you could just do weaving, just different colours, change them as you go along. Remember not to pull that in. It's really hard trying to remember not to pull that in. There we go. Really scrunch them down. Okay, now that one there is probably, I can trim that off. I don't think that's going to come out now. There we go, that's well and truly fastened in. Okay, so in and amongst them you can start adding other little textures. So if I get some little snippets of wool, what you want to do is fold it over to create a little loop, and you pop that underneath. So I've got my little loop like that. Just trim that off. Then your two little tails, pop those through the loop. So what I've done is I've fastened that now onto that thread. Just pull it a little bit tighter and then slide it down. So I'm making a little loop, pop it under a thread. So I've got my little loop, take the tails, pop the tails through that loop, just hold that up so you can see I've done it through, and then you just pull it tight on that thread and then slide it down. So this is quite nice if you've got wools that have got a bit of texture to them. Just pop that underneath. Pop it through. Just hold your thread so you're not pulling it against the holes there. If you just put your finger either side, you can pull it to get it quite tight, and then they can come down. And then if you get your little warpy and wefties back over, and you go across, pull that down, that'll trap them, and then you start getting, these will be trimmed a little bit. I don't think I'm going to leave them all totally dangly, but you can really start playing around with all these little bits of added texture on there as well. I'm just using really simple just weaving techniques, but if you Google it, there's loads of things where you go and you wrap around an actual thread. Just make sure I'm not going too far in. Push those down. So I'm just going to trim that one off. There's something a little bit darker. Go with a little needle. Desk is getting messy. Okay, so this time I'm going to go over, because that was an under, I'm going to go over the top, but then what I'm going to do is, I've got my two tails at that end, so just tie a little knot. I might leave those dangly to start off with, see where that ends up. There we go. Where's that going to end up? That's quite nice. So what I'm going to do this time is, when I've gone under, I'm going to come back on myself, go over, under, and then where I've just gone under, that little thing's got, there we go, I'm going to go back on myself. So I've just come underneath that one, I'm going to go back under, then over, under. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a little loop. So I'm going back over, under, over, create a little loop. So if I try and hold that a little bit nearer, what I've done there, I don't know if you can see, just get it a little bit looser, I've created like a little loop. It goes on like a little wave, and that just sort of adds again another texture. So I've not pulled that too tight. Got my little dangly threads. So I'm going to go back this way, under, over. So when I've gone underneath, so this one here, I've gone underneath, what I'm doing then is I'm coming back and going back under, over, under. So I'm creating that little loop, come back, over, under. It just adds another texture. Over, under, and then over. That's it. So it sort of like creates, just hold that up, you get like this little undulating, a little wave going on. I'll do that one again. So that was us, that's under. So whenever you go over, so it's 1, 2, 3, the third thread there I've gone, no, it's the under one. Hold on, oh god, I'm getting confused now. Oops. Yeah, sorry. So it's the one when you've gone underneath. So second thread I'm going under, and all I do is come back and go back underneath the second one, over, under. So the one that you've gone under there, which is number 4, I'm just going to come back and go back underneath it, over, under. Gone underneath it, over, under, over, under. So you just create then, just making sure I'm not going inwards, scrunch it all down. See, that's where I did my knot, so that's given me like a dangly bit. So what I might do now, I've got enough to go back. I might just do an under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Just get it back that way. Oh, excuse my tummy. There we go. Double it down. Oh, I've probably got enough to go back again, but I want to do some other dangly bits. So this is a great way of using it if you've got any bits of thread that are left. I'm going to do some double threads now. So I've got 2 threads there, 2 threads made into a little loop. So that's going to go underneath. Oh. There you go. So I've gone underneath, take the little tails, get the loop, pop them through, and we're through. Yep, there we go. Just hold the threads. Nope, we're not through. Right, I made that a bit too short. Let's go for longer. Better to go for longer. You can always trim them down. So I've got my double, pop it underneath. Sorry, it's not that easy to see, it's a bit fiddly. Right, so I've got my loop with my tails, get my tails, there we go, pop them through, there we go, through the loop, there we go, just hold your thread, pull it tight on your thread and then slide it down. Like I say, those can be trimmed later, but these are really good at popping in just to hold this first lot of stitching down. So hopefully you can see what we're busy doing. We're just playing around with weaving, and I'm going to take it all the way up to the top, so it should hopefully end up being a beautiful green textured little bit of stitching. And I'll probably trim these down a little bit, might get it all there and then space it out a little bit more as we are going up. So like usual, I'll pop some photos on, and hopefully you'll have a fantastic time weaving. Remember to choose your favourite colour. I know sometimes I always say use a colour that we don't always use, but this time let's treat ourselves and let's go for a colour that we absolutely love. Okay, I will see you next week when we are halfway through the year. Love and hugs.